Hey everybody, this is Casey again with Aligned Astrology. Thanks so much for being here. Today we're going to talk about the new moon in Sagittarius, which is culminating or coming into fruition on December 19th. Today we're going to talk about this new moon in Sagittarius and the truth of it. What is the value of truth? When we ask ourselves this question, it's important to gain an idea of what truth is for us. Can we really determine what one grand truth is? The truth is, the truth is no. Like when we think about the Buddha Gautama, when people would come ask Buddha when he was under the Bodhi tree, what is truth? And he would say nothing, because the grand truth is unspeakable, right? We don't really have the capacity to put it into words. Any of the divine or spiritual masters could understand that truth itself is something that must be lived, it must be experienced. So we're going to look at the value of truth for ourselves with this new moon in Sagittarius. The new moon in the sign of Sagittarius is ruled by Jupiter. As a traditional Hellenistic astrologer, I like to talk about the 7 traditional planets that have rulership over the 12 zodiac signs. So we talk about Jupiter ruling over the sign of Sagittarius and the importance of understanding what that planet is doing during the new moon, because it is in rulership of this new moon. So Jupiter is currently in the sign of Cancer, and when we think about Jupiter as the planet of order, this is an opportunity for our truth to be put into order or into proper direction. The planet Jupiter is retrograde in the sign of Cancer. So when we think about a retrograde Jupiter, it's a time of revisioning, a time of going back to the drawing board, or taking an opportunity to go inwards and be mindful of the things that we may have learned or gained up to this point with Jupiter moving through Cancer, which it moved into last summer. When we see Jupiter moving through the sign of Cancer, it's, like I said, it's retrograde. It's going to allow us to see Cancer as the birthplace. When we think about Cancer, Cancer is the nurturing mother, and Jupiter itself can be looked at as fecundation. Like traditional astrologers would see Jupiter as a representation of sperm. So when Jupiter and Cancer come together, it's like fecundation or the birth of something. So Jupiter here, retrograde, in the place of spirit moving into matter, could show us that we may be receiving a seemingly divine truth from this new moon in Sagittarius, or a seed planting that we need to nurture and grow. So the questions that we can ask ourselves around this new moon is, how can we apply this particular truth we may be receiving to our own individual experience? Or how can we lead by example? Because that's ultimately what truth is for. It's not for us to stand up on our soapbox and say, hey, I know the truth, everybody, come listen to me. But it is important for us to live and breathe and be that thing that we feel is true, for people to see it for themselves, for us to believe it for ourselves, to have genuine faith. Faith is not something as simple as belief. Faith is found through lived experience. Well, true faith anyway. Blind faith is something that a lot of us may have experienced in our own lives growing up and believing things just because we're told them. But when we live things, like I go put my hand on the hot stove, I can understand that it is hot. So through embodying these truths that we receive, we can learn what they have to show us. We can reap the benefits. We can sow or we can harvest the fruit that the seed has grown into. So when we start to understand that an idea and an action towards truth is that faith that we can create in our experience. And maybe this is what that lunation is going to breed for us. So as we look at this chart I'm going to pull up, we're going to talk about a couple of things, and then we're going to look at all 12 zodiac signs and see how this new moon is affecting each rising sign individually. Once again, I am a traditional Hellenistic astrologer, so I invite you to listen to your rising signs when we go over these horoscopes, because horoscopic astrology was created in the Hellenistic era with the whole sign house system, which is correlated to each of the rising signs. So we can determine where all these houses are according to your rising sign. If you listen to your sun sign, that's okay. But if it doesn't land, I invite you to listen to your rising sign. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the chart up. And we're going to get into it. I'm going to reset that for a second. And share the entire screen. That's perfect. Okay, so we're looking at December 19th with the new moon in Sagittarius at 28 degrees. We have Jupiter in the sign of Cancer at 22 degrees retrograde. So Jupiter in Cancer is moving backwards until about mid-March. I believe it's March 11th when Jupiter is going to station direct. So we can see this new moon as a time of moving into ourselves to determine something that we have learned for ourselves as a truth that we believe or that we're beginning to experience. Now, one thing that we can talk about in regards to truth is that just because we think something's true doesn't necessarily make it true. So we have to learn how to live it, learn how to become the thing that we believe as true in order to actually know it is so. So since we have the new moon at 28 degrees in Sagittarius, I like to look for some aspects in astrology to see what's going on. We also have the planet Neptune in a square aspect to the new moon. So this aspect can show importance because the planet Neptune is in the other sign of Jupiter. It is in the yin watery domicile of Jupiter. Now the fiery domicile of Jupiter is Sagittarius. So these two zodiac signs inherently work together. They are both ruled by the planet Jupiter, which is in Cancer. So Neptune, the planet of delusion or fantasy, which can also be considered as the planet of divine insight or clarity, can show us a lot of different things with this new moon. Since it is in the sign of Pisces, we can be gaining, like I said earlier, some sort of spiritual insight, some spiritual learnings, or a spiritual truth that we may have an opportunity to live by or learn to embody. So this new moon, like the planting of a seed, can show that when the seed is planted, we must, if we are gardeners, we must grow our seed by nurturing it with proper sunlight, proper water. And it's important to notice that when we plant a seed, the seed starts out as a seed, but it must die in order to become a sprout, in order to grow a stalk and begin to grow leaves and then fruit. So we must understand that our old ways of being, our old ways of thinking must come to an end if something new is to be birthed. So as we look to this new moon, we're going to look at all 12 zodiac signs and determine for each one how this truth is showing itself. We're going to start with Aries risings. And we can take a look and see that Aries risings will experience the new moon in Sagittarius in the ninth house. The ninth house can be representative of long distance travel or higher learning and the truth that we speak about, right? Things that we're naturally inclined to move towards when it comes to bettering ourselves or seeking satisfaction in our lives. As an Aries rising, you will be experiencing the new moon in the ninth house with the rulership of Jupiter from the fourth house. The fourth house is our foundation or upbringing, our place of solitude where nobody sees what we do. So we can see this opportunity with Jupiter in the sign of Cancer and that nurturing motherly sign as an opportunity for us to gain access to a truth that we've probably had right under our nose. Some teachings that our parents may have given us, or some family tradition that we may have been not necessarily mindful of. So in understanding this new moon in the ninth house, it is something that is going to come up from beneath the surface for us that we're going to have to put into practice. We're going to have to embody. And since the planet Neptune is in the 12th house at 29 degrees in that square aspect with the new moon, this may be something that, like I said, we're not necessarily aware of that's going to come into our awareness, whether it be through a dream or a conversation with a parental figure. Let us know how this one comes up for you, Aries rising. What do we need to do to embody a truth? Moving into Taurus risings, who will experience this new moon in the 8th house. The 8th house is representative of the esteem of others, how our relationships see us. This is also the house of karma, and it can also be a place of transformation. When we think about a new moon in Sagittarius in the 8th house, there's something that's being born. There's a new cycle beginning. We have Jupiter in rulership over this new moon, which is in the 3rd house in Cancer, of our day-to-day experiences or the people we connect with on a daily basis. Since Jupiter is retrograde, it's a time of rethinking, going back to revise the connections that we have on a daily basis or the actions that we're taking. The sort of emotional order that we have in our day-to-day experience is changing based off of a new cycle we're being presented with. The eighth house is also seen as the house of other people's money. So maybe this truth that we are coming into awareness of is going to alter the way that we share ourselves, or an opportunity for us to embody this truth and share with the people around us in order to receive in some way from them. We have the planet Neptune in the square aspect to the new moon from the 11th house of community or good fortune. So there could be a particular message that comes from someone in our community or an acquaintance of ours that opens our eyes to a desire or a will to be a different way, to learn to share ourselves or this new truth that we may be coming into through our natural way of being, our day-to-day experience. So as a Taurus rising, let us know how this one is going to show itself for you. Gemini risings are experiencing this new moon in the 7th house, the 7th house of one-on-one relationships. We usually see it as the spouse, but it can be any one-on-one relationship, you and the other person. New moons are new beginnings or seed plantings, and this doesn't necessarily mean that we have to let something go, but in order for a seed to grow, it must first die. So in a connection with one-on-one partners, this is an opportunity for us to understand what our truth is based off of connection with our mirror. The planet Neptune in the 10th house is being squared by the new moon. And Neptune in the 10th house can show that we may become inspired through our career and public role based off something we may be learning through a particular skill we've acquired, or maybe applying a particular skill in our career and gain access to a new way of being in one-on-one relationships that allows us to learn and teach and receive and give in these partnerships that helps us to grow, just like the seed that's being planted in our new moon. As Gemini Rising, so let us know in the comments how this one's coming up for you. Cancer Risings, we get to experience the new moon in the 6th house of service, of health of the physical body. And we have Jupiter, if you're Cancer Rising, in the 1st house. So anytime we have Jupiter in the 1st house of the self, the identity, Jupiter expands, right? And right now Jupiter's retrograde, so it can be a lot of internal transformation going on here, a lot of emotional understandings and overcomings. As Jupiter moves through the 1st house for this year until next summer, moving into July, Cancer Risings, you have the experience to dramatically transform yourself. And since Jupiter is in rulership of this new moon in the 6th house, whatever you are learning about yourself is giving you the opportunity to apply these things in a way that you can serve others with. We have the planet Neptune in the sign of Pisces, squaring from the new moon in the 9th house for you. So there can be a higher learning. Maybe you've gone back to school, or maybe you've began to learn about some new religion or spiritual practice that is giving you the insight or the inspiration to want to share it with others. So this new form of embodiment that Jupiter is creating in your first house is maybe giving you the opportunity to share these things. Maybe creating a new sense of value within yourself. For Cancer risings, Leo risings are experiencing the new moon in the fifth house of creativity, romance. It can be children, like procreation. It can be creativity, like your arts and your crafts, or even building a business in this case. Having Jupiter in rulership of this fifth house from the 12th house can show that there are things beneath the surface in our place of solitude, or things that we aren't necessarily aware of yet, that are building up and leading us towards the direction where we want to share, we want to be creative in our experience. Since we have the planet Neptune in the 8th house of karma, or the esteem of others, other people's money, it's an opportunity here for us to take a moment for ourselves. Jupiter's retrograde in our 12th house. This is a new moon in the 5th house. This is just the beginning of our creative endeavors. That spark is lit, and it's an opportunity for us to move in that direction. Maybe it's just an idea right now, an idea of what our truth is, and maybe we have the capacity, the capabilities to put it on paper or make it into a project that we can then express our truth as, for others to receive. So Leo risings, don't be afraid to create it and share it. Virgo risings are experiencing this in the 4th house, new moon in Sagittarius, from our place of upbringing, our home. Having the new moon in the 4th house ruled by Jupiter, which is transiting through the 11th house of community and good fortune, can give us the opportunity to find our place in community, or a sense of order. Or when we think about the sign of Virgo, Virgo as the great teacher wants to be able to be of support to the others around them. And having a new moon in the 4th house, our place of solitude, is helping us to set the groundwork to prepare ourselves to share what we've learned, or the things that we do best without getting in our own way. The new moon is in a square aspect to the planet Neptune in the 7th house of one-on-one relationships. So this sort of inspirational connection may come into our experience from a one-on-one relationship, maybe a conversation that we have with somebody that opens our eyes to see what direction we need to begin to prepare to share ourselves. Because when we think about these new moons, lunation cycles, this is a new moon in Sagittarius. And these lunation cycles, they last about 6 months. Of course, we have our new moon, first quarter moon, and full moon. But when we move forward, we won't have a full moon in Sagittarius until Gemini season. On, I believe it's May 31st, we're going to have a full moon in Sagittarius. That is the genuine completion of this lunation cycle. It's like when this new moon is full grown, and we'll have that sun in the 10th house shining a light to the moon in the 4th house. So we'll get to see the seed bear its fruit for Virgo risings then. But right now, notice what's going on in your place of solitude, what you need to focus on, what feels best for you to move towards. And it may just be coming from a conversation, that inspiration that you're seeking. Libra risings are experiencing the new moon in the third house of day-to-day experiences. And when we think about having that new moon in the third house in rulership of Sagittarius, Jupiter is in the 10th house of career and public role. So what are we being seen for Libra risings that is newly affecting our daily experiences? The planet Neptune at 29 degrees in the sign of Pisces is squaring to the third house from the sixth house of work, health, service. So it is our daily efforts towards a particular goal that are giving us the opportunity to begin to experience a new day-to-day experience, or be around a new group of people that we can share ourselves with. When we have Jupiter in the 10th house retrograde, it's like we're taking a moment for ourselves to understand what the people around us need. Of course, the career, or the 10th house, is how the world sees us. But Jupiter in the sign of Cancer is exalted, and it is like Cancer as the nurturing mother and Jupiter as the planet of order and abundance wants to give and wants to share the things that it creates. So this new moon is setting the foundation, forming the idea in order to take the action. And that Neptune in the sign of Pisces, right at the Aries degree, the 29th degree, which is the final degree in Pisces before it moves into the sign of Aries, is having that final communication with this new moon. So our daily efforts as Libra risings are full of inspiration, giving us the insight necessary to move towards that truth that we're feeling from the inside out. For Scorpio risings, fellow Scorpio risings, we will experience this new moon in Sagittarius in the second house. Having the new moon in the second house is a new beginning around our skills or abilities or our financial well-being. When we think about a new moon as the planting of a seed, it's setting our foundation so that way we can move in the direction that we see fit. And it's ultimately based on a truth that we may have gained over this year since the summertime, with Jupiter moving through the 9th house of higher learning. Maybe we've acquired a new truth or an opportunity to live in a different way based off something we've learned. How can we embody this truth in our daily experiences, in our skills and abilities? When we learn something that we have not had access to before, we can apply it to our lives. We can use these skills and share ourselves. And of course, sharing ourselves is beneficial to the people around us. But when we share, when we teach, we also learn. We transform ourselves. So taking these truths and embodying them is the greatest opportunity for ourselves to gain, to grow from what we've learned over this past year. Moving into Sagittarius risings, are experiencing this new moon in the first house get the opportunity to begin again. The first house has the identity or the body, even the mind, our expression. Having a new moon here is allowing us to return back to our own center. Notice how far we've come and let anything go that no longer serves us in order to build up from this genuine idea of truth that we've created. The planet Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer in the 8th house, in the esteem of others. So maybe through one-on-one relationship connection, we've had the opportunity to see ourselves. And maybe it's been great, maybe not so great. But the new moon here in the first house is an opportunity for us to change for the better, to grow from what we've already learned. The planet Neptune is in the 4th house, in the square aspect to this new moon, from our place of solitude. So maybe in deep meditation or reflection on our childhood, we gain an opportunity to understand ourselves in a deeper way. And maybe through even a spiritual insight, we can choose to think differently. We can gain a new set of values, and we can begin to express ourselves in this way to be received differently by the people around us. For Sagittarius Risings, what an awesome opportunity. Capricorn Risings are experiencing the new moon in the 12th house. Having a new moon in the 12th house is sometimes difficult to be aware of, because the 12th house is something that we don't necessarily see. And when the light's hiding there, when a seed is being planted there, it's something that we have to really understand how to be mindful of. And the 12th house is also a place of solitude. So having that quiet time for ourselves, coming into a place of stillness, a place of meditation, is what's going to help us to understand what truth might be behind the curtain. The planet Jupiter is in the 7th house in the sign of Cancer. So it's in our one-on-one relationship house. So communication, conversations with a partner, even maybe our mom, right? When we think about Cancer, we can think about our mother. A conversation can come up and give us the opportunity to see ourselves or something that we may have been missing that we can begin to build upon. The new moon in the sign of Sagittarius is in the square aspect with Neptune in the 3rd house of day-to-day experiences, and maybe we have a very miraculous, inspiring experience in our daily life that helps us to want to seek the deeper meanings, the deeper truths. And coming back to the idea of the 12th house, it's also correlated with the subconscious mind. So in seeking, maybe it's already inside of us, this truth, and we just have to grow it. Capricorn Risings. Aquarius Risings are experiencing the new moon in the 11th house, the 11th house of community. Having a new moon in the 11th house can show that maybe good fortune is afoot. We have an opportunity to connect with a new community. Jupiter is in the 6th house of chopping wood and carrying water, my teacher likes to call it. Or it is the house of work, right? It's our daily efforts towards a particular goal. So that Jupiter retrograde there is showing the actions that we're taking towards a community. Maybe we need to go back to the drawing board. Maybe we need to change our approach in connection with a particular community, whether we're a teacher or an acquaintance. Whatever our role is in this community, we have this new moon here to show us a truth that we may have, that we have not been properly embodying, that we need to learn how to embody through our consistent efforts. The planet Neptune in the square aspect is coming from the 2nd house of our skills, our abilities. So whatever skills or talents that we've gained or we have access to, maybe it's an opportunity for us to use them or share them in this community in a different way. So that way we can be perceived as someone who can help and support Aquarius Risings. Lastly, we'll look at the sign of Pisces as our rising sign, who's experiencing the new moon in the 10th house, the house where the world sees us for what we do. The planet Jupiter is in the 5th house of creativity. Maybe we have an idea to be of creative intent. Maybe we want to build a business now. Maybe it's just an idea. Every idea that we have that becomes successful always starts with a form of inspiration. When we think about the 5th house of creativity, ruled by the sign of Cancer for you Pisces, it can be a very emotional thing that you may be dealing with. When we think about having Neptune in the 1st house, Pisces, it's an opportunity to notice that a spiritual experience may be guiding us. A form of inspiration may be coming from our ability to express in connection with others right now for what we may be seeing at work for. Jupiter retrograde in our 5th house goes to show that whatever creative endeavors we may be moving towards, we've gained the opportunity on the inside to see for ourselves the truth behind it is more important than the product or the thing that we want to create. So as we learn how to impart that genuine truth into our business or our creative endeavors, then the success follows it naturally. Having that new moon in the 10th house is the beginning of this process. And on May 31st, there will be a full moon in his 10th house. So we have about 5 or 6 months before this lunation cycle completes itself. So Pisces Rising, what is being bred for you from your creativity? That brings our horoscopes to an end in regards to our new moon in the sign of Sagittarius. So again, we will end with these questions. What is this particular truth that I need to embody in my experience? And can we truly speak about what truth is? Can we truly speak about what truth is? Take these questions for yourself and reflect on them during this new moon time. Thank you so much for listening. This is Casey again with the Line Astrology. Until the next time.